Guys, it's your friendly neighborhood relic here, and I have my best mom mug here with coffee. It's 8 in the morning, and I will try to answer this question, which has been boggling me for a little while, which is how do you beat players in Fortnite that are better than you? And when I mean better than you, I mean better than you in every aspect, decision-making included, right? Because it's always the easy answer. If someone's better than you mechanically, you got to outsmart them. And that's definitely part of the answer, but what I'm asking, the reason I'm asking this question really is because of the pop-up cups, right? I haven't had the time to play the game as much as I want to. I don't have 100 hours to put in creative. I don't use Kovacs. I don't have time for that. I play the game because I enjoy it, but I still want to do the compete in the pop-up cups, and I wanted to get the high points games, and I wanted to make sure that I could compete with the best players in the game. And I've been doing that quite well. I've reached, 41, 42 points, 46 points in duos once. So I've been getting over 40 points quite often, which is, I think, impressive in terms of my skill level compared to the skill level of players that I'm playing against. I definitely think that most players that I go against are better than me overall, but I find myself a lot in situations where I get to use the game to my advantage in any way possible to still rack up some points and still win some games. So this is what I want to talk to you in this video, and there's really one main reason why I'm making this video. I want to encourage some of you out there, convince some of you out there that there is other ways to practice than just going in creative, going playground, going in Kovacs, and practicing only the core mechanics of the game. There's a lot of mental practice that you can be doing in game that a lot of people aren't doing, and that I feel if they were doing, they would probably perform a lot better. So this is made, again, for the players out there that don't have enough time to, again, put the 100 hours in creative, and that, will essentially always be less skilled than the players in their games if you're looking to go to the high points and still want to find ways to play well. So this is kind of a paradoxical question, but I'll try to still give you guys some insight. So the main idea, okay, is that we're playing a battle royale game. This is not a 1v1, which means that you can effectively find yourself at an advantage over your opponent, no matter who they are. If they're Tfue and I'm a no skin, there are opportunities, situations in a battle royale game where you could still kill Tfue even if you are someone that just started playing the game today. And the easiest example, you land on a roof, you get a shotgun, Tfue lands on the roof, doesn't get the shotgun. No matter, unless you are really, really bad and you can't aim, you're probably going to kill Tfue, right? So that's the gist of it. That's the simplest way that I can put this ideology to the test, but this is way more complex than that. So I've kind of broken down the different aspects in the game where I think that you can find yourself thinking, okay, how can I put myself at an advantage? Let's keep Tfue as an example. Where do I think, and how do I think any situation where I would actually be able to kill Tfue in a regular game? And you got to figure out all the possible, answers to that question, and then try to put yourself as many times as possible in that situation where you have an intrinsic advantage and you would possibly kill Tfue. So let's go through a few of them, and then when you go and play your own games, I want you guys to really think about this. Think about your opponents constantly being Tfue, and how would you act if you constantly thought your opponent was Tfue in a way that you would still want to be able to kill them. Okay, so let's play the game together, and then at the end of the video, hopefully you guys will think, okay, maybe this week I'll skip my Kovacs, I'll skip my creative, and I'll just go in game and really try to practice this ideology a little bit more. So first off, the easiest one to answer is the loadout, of course, right? It's a simple answer, but it's also the most complex of any of the the points that I'll mention, because loadout is the most complex thing in the game. There's so many different items, there's so many different combination of items that you can have, and all of them give you an advantage over another loadout. So think of it as like a build, if you will. If you have a long range build, if you have a heavy sniper and maybe a scar, and your opponent has a heavy shotgun or the pump, the golden pump and a P90, and you have a gray tac shotgun and I don't know, like no SMG, they clearly have a huge advantage over you close range, but you have a huge advantage over them long range. So this is the gist of it. A lot of loadouts will counter each other. So if you know that your loadout is essentially really good at long range, then you want to be constantly thinking about, I need to keep my distances. I don't want to run into a fight where there's players. I need to maybe go find a high point that I can hide or I can camp and then I can shoot players that are trying to come up to me because, again, I have a heavy sniper, I have a scar, I can defend myself from a long distance, but again, if I go close range, I will die. So this is something I feel not enough people are doing. They probably have, again, this loadout that I just described, great tac, SMG or shitty SMG, but they have a scar and a heavy sniper, and they still find themselves pushing in fights and pushing close. You know, when they see opponents fighting, they still go in and try to fight close range, and they get killed because they essentially didn't think about, well, no, this loadout is not good for close range. It's really good for long range, so let's keep my distances. So I'll let you guys figure out all the combinations because I don't want to go through all of them, of course, but constantly think, what's your effective loadout? Is your loadout good for long range? Is it good for close range? Is it good for medium range? Is it good for poking? Maybe you have a lot of potions, which a lot of potions means you probably can take a lot of damage from opponents. So if you're, you know, peeking, and shooting, that's fine. You can, you know, heal yourself back up if you have a lot of potions, which essentially is putting you at an advantage over the opponent, right? So intrinsic advantage, you have a lot of potions, so you can poke, and hopefully your opponent doesn't have as many potions as you do. And so at the end of the day, you're coming out on top because they are losing effective HP, and you're not. You're still putting yourself back up to whatever amount of HP you had before. So second point that I want you guys to think about, and the way that I think about it, is positioning. Positioning is probably the most important as well if you're playing scrims. Positioning is something that can really, really help out, even if, again, the player that you're playing against is much better than you. If you essentially constantly think about, okay, where's the zone going? Where can I put myself in the highest point position in the game to, you know, just shoot opponents that are coming in the zone? This can give you a huge advantage. If you're on top of a mountain and Tfue's on the bottom of the mountain, you have an advantage. Tfue is really good, potentially could actually kill you. You know, again, there's a lot of ways that people can climb up mountains, but you still have an intrinsic advantage, which is, again, what we're discussing in this video. So this gives you a better chance of beating out a player that's better than you if you're at a high point in the game. Also, if you're in a building that's already built in the game, so, you know, if, for example, you're on top of the arena, that's also a really, really strong point because it's difficult to, you know, break that essentially in the game. Also, using natural cover is really good. And positioning really is important, especially, again, in the late game, and can really give you the advantage over opponents. So this is something that you want to be thinking about a lot if you're someone that's not great at the game. People that are really good, people that can outplay their opponents. You know, again, think of the best players that you can think of that are really, really quick and, you know, mongrel and all that. They don't have to care about positioning as much as we do, the bad players or the average players, because they can retake the high ground. They usually get good at retaking the high ground, or they get good at getting in the zone. Even if players are in front of them, they'll kill them, they'll outplay them, and they'll still get into the zone. I will get shit on if I'm not in the zone by the time, you know, I need to be there. I will get shot. I will, you know, basically scramble. I'll not be good enough to find myself running into the zone if I don't do that beforehand. Again, so this is another idea that you are weaker than your opponents, so you need to be kind of constantly a step ahead of them, if you will, to keep track and keep up with them. Another one is environment and situational weakness. So this is my best way of playing against good players in pop-up cups, and this is really the biggest way you're going to make points is by third-partying, which is, to me, a situational weakness. When you're fighting a player that's already in a fight, they have a situational weakness where they're already fighting a player, and you're coming in hot. As bad as you may be, they have to deal with two players at once, which gives you an advantage. You might be able to kill that person and then kill the opponent that they're fighting as well, if you play that well enough. Also, after a player just, you know, finished a fight, of course now there's healing, but there's only 50 heals, so it's not that big of a deal. If they lost a lot of HP, even with a 50 heal, they're still probably not at a, you know, full HP, and you can still take advantage of that. Situational awareness again, and situational, you know, weakness. They have lower HP, and maybe as well their guns are not reloaded. You know, they just finished a fight. Most of their guns are empty. That's also a huge advantage to take. A huge point to take advantage in a game. So that's another thing you want to be constantly thinking about. Like, if I see players fight, I'm not gonna run into the fight while they're currently fighting. Usually, I'll wait it out. I'll stay in the back. I will use, again, this advantage I have of being there. They are being in a fight, and I just shoot them. And then when the fight is over, again, I rush, and then I finish the fight off, and I try to kill the opponent that's left alive. Some basic stuff, of course, but it's stuff like this that can really give you an advantage. I see people so often, there's a fight, and before the fight's over, they rush into the fight and they try to take on both opponents, but then you're putting yourself in the same situation that you were just in, right? You're putting yourself in the fight, and that's putting you at a disadvantage. So try to always keep the advantage of not being in the fight and being the person that's third partying, because if you rush too early, you might be getting third party by someone else after that, and that would be pretty bad. Also, players that are being distracted, players that are healing, also those are situations where they're at a disadvantage. So if you can see a player and you can see a player healing, that means first of all they don't have full HP and they need to be essentially healing so that they can't move, and so you can try to shoot them as much as possible, maybe sneak a snipe shot in there. So when a player is at a disadvantage in terms of how like they have to deal with the game, so healing again is another one, it's a good moment for you to act. Fourth thing, I think that's the fourth thing that we're at, defensive power and the power of turtling. So essentially the idea is that when a player is being aggressive, right, when a player is W keying you, they are actually putting themselves at a disadvantage over you, because they are there's a couple of reasons for that, but one of them is because they're probably shooting at your builds. So unless they're pickaxing it, but if they're shooting at your builds, they will have to reload essentially their gun, which puts them at a disadvantage. As soon as your opponent has to reload a weapon, you have the advantage over them, no matter who they are. If your guns are fully loaded. Second of all, if they're trying to break in your builds and you're playing defensively, you have the advantage of being able to sneak some shots while they're the ones that are actively trying to break your builds. This is why some people are really good. Like, I've been getting really good at turtling. I don't want to build fight anybody because I'm not good at building, and I just take the low ground and I let them come and try to, push into my build. I can put a trap if they're trying to W key and enter my 1x1, and that puts them at a disadvantage again because they have to deal with my walls. And again, if they're trying to break my wall, they're actively trying to do something while I can shoot them with my gun and they don't have their gun out. That's another advantage. Also, when players are being aggressive, and unless you're the last two players remaining, they are pretty much bringing attention to themselves in a situation where there could be other players shooting at them as well. So this puts them at a disadvantage. If there's other players shooting at the person that's trying to kill you, that is a huge opportunity for you to kill them and try to use the other players, try to use the third party to your advantage. That is another really, really good thing to do. If you're fighting someone, or someone's fighting you and then trying to really kill you, and you hear shots, people trying to shoot at them, just turtle the hell out. Don't even try to kill them. Try to turtle. As soon as you see, maybe you can hear when a person takes a shot or loses their shield. That's your moment. That's when you want to act, get out of and shoot them right there. Basically, and they'll be really mad because again, you took advantage of the situation where they were at a disadvantage and you were just hurling and doing your own thing and not really pressuring them. If they're getting shot, and while they're getting shot, you basically keep trying to fight them, you might actually put yourself at a disadvantage there because they will want to end the fight with you as quickly as possible to deal with the third partying. So the best way to deal with someone, again, W keying you when they're getting third party is to just turtle more. Don't even try to fight them. They're gonna be taking shots, and if you fight them, you might put yourself in a situation where they're just gonna fight you. They're just gonna try to finish you as quickly as possible, and then it's going to be much easier for them to deal with the third party. And finally, my last point is the weak points, the general weak points in the game, which are usually when people are rotating, when people are gliding, for example, if someone just used a rift or used a jump pad, they're really at a weak point. They can't shoot you, and if you get really good at aiming and shooting players, I've been practicing that a lot, shooting players in the air, it's a huge point of weakness for players when they're rotating, when they're in the air. They're super weak, and you can get a lot of kills that way, especially if someone is fighting and they're using a jump pad to escape. Well, they're very likely low on HP. They're likely not at their strongest, and that can give you a good opportunity to shoot them. And if someone's pushing you with a rift, try to shoot them while they're in the air. That's the weakest point that they can be at. Again, even if it's Tfue, let's take the example again. Tfue's in the air with his jump pad. If you actually laser him in the air, you're going to find yourself killing him, no matter, how maybe he can try to dodge and whatever, but you can still do some damage to him. Also, if someone's in a vehicle, someone's in a plane, planes are, good, of course, but you can still try to shoot that player in the air. They're a big target, and they are kind of at a weak spot when they're in a plane, especially if they're not targeting you.
What the baby? fucking back to the lobby! Little bitch.
If they're on a quad launcher, same thing, or quad crasher. Anyone that's in a vehicle usually is at a disadvantage as well, which you should try to take advantage as much as you can. Now, this video is a little bit longer than I expected, but guys, really the essential idea, and I've just barely scratched the surface. Really, I'm trying to give you guys ideas and really ways of thinking about the game that are different. Instead of going to practice, again, how to outplay everybody, how do I go and make the quickest builds and fight everybody, and how can you kill players that are better than you by being just intelligent and also just playing boring, passive, and sort of opportunistic gameplay. That's the idea. You're trying to be as opportunistic as possible. You're not trying to fight someone and be impressive. You're really just trying to be as effective, efficient as possible when the opponent is better than you. And that's it, guys. I hope this was interesting to you guys. This is kind of a topic I wanted to discuss. I'd love to hear some of your some of your suggestions, or if you have any ideas on, how do you abuse players, or how do you abuse situations. I'd love to hear it in the comments, or the Reddit thread. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon.